You know what I'm feeling today? I'm feeling love. I'm feeling love for each and every one of my 28 subscribers, which is what inspired me to do the myth I'm doing today. Hold on, wait. You're not subscribed. Well, then I don't love you. Subscribe to my channel. You'll have my everlasting and unconditional love under the condition that you subscribe to me. Alright, let's keep going. Eros and Psyche, the best love story in Greek mythology. How it starts off is with the character of Psyche. She is very beautiful, extremely beautiful, and people come from far and wide to see her beauty, like they did with Arachne for her weaving, except Psyche just has a nice face. Now, Psyche was so beautiful that people went to see her instead of worshipping Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. They thought Psyche was more beautiful than Aphrodite, and if you paid attention to the last myth, Arachne, that isn't good. When gods get ignored, or when mortals are better than them at something, they get mad. So Aphrodite sends her son Eros to Psyche, and she commands him to fire an arrow at her, because Eros has these arrows that make you fall in love with stuff. And she tells him to fire an arrow at her that'll make her fall in love with the most vile, disgusting, abhorrent, repulsive creature on the gods' green earth. Gods like doing that. They like making you fall in love with weird stuff. You guys are sick. Eros goes to do this, but when he sees Psyche, she is so beautiful that he cannot make himself do it. He is just so in love. Also, Eros is the god of love, and it's from his name that we get erotic. But the thing about Psyche is that all of these suitors and lovers just took one look at her and said, man, she's too beautiful for me. I could never marry her. I'm just not in her league. And then they went off and found different objects of affection. So Psyche couldn't find a match. Meanwhile, her two sisters found matches just fine. Her two sisters were always so cruel to her because they were jealous. It's kind of like Cinderella. I bet they were the inspiration. And her father and mother were kind of despairing. They didn't know what to do. How are we going to find our daughter a suitable mate? So the Oracle of Delphi, who is just like an 18-year-old tripping off her sack, instructs Psyche to go to the top of this high hill and to lie in wait for her husband, which was to be a big old snake, a big flying snake. Psyche is not happy with this, neither are her father and mother, but they gotta do something to get their daughter hitched, so they bring her up there. When Psyche gets taken from this hill, though, she finds not a big old snake, but a lavish, decadent castle, with gold and marble and stuff, all the finest furniture and windows. Bet they had a hedge maze too. Psyche doesn't see any sign of the giant snake, so I think she just wanders around for a little while. But then, when it is time to go to bed, she slips under the covers and there's a dude in there. It's dark, so she can't see what he looks like, but he's like, hey baby, it's me, your husband. And she's like, oh hey, you don't sound like a snake. And he's like, come here baby, let's do sex. And they do. And Psyche really likes her husband. He's sweet, he's gentle and loving and kind. And so she says, maybe this isn't so bad after all. Thing is, he only shows up at night, and she never actually sees his face. He's not there during the day, and she gets kind of bored with nobody to keep her company. So one night, she asks this faceless man, hey honey pie, can you bring my sisters up here? I miss them so much. And he's like, okay, sweetie pie, anything you say. And the sisters are like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting. This is pretty lavish. Our sister is leading quite the life up here. And then they meet Psyche, and she tells them all about, what she'd been doing, and she tells them about her husband. And they're like, what's he like? What does he look like? And she's like, oh, I actually don't know. I have never seen his face. And they're like, so you've never seen your husband? You've just done the sex. And she's like, yeah. And they're like, well, what if it's the big old snake? What if it's actually just a snake in your bed? And she's like, I don't know, I felt him, he was pretty dude-shaped. And they're like, I wouldn't trust a dude-shaped guy. You should see who this guy really is. So Psyche, even after her sisters leave, she can't get this out of her head. She can't get out the notion that she might be sleeping with a snake. After her husband has fallen asleep, she gets an oil lamp and creeps up to the bed, and she sees not a snake, but a handsome, hunky guy. And she's like, well, oh, thank the gods. You know, he's not so bad after all. But then she accidentally dribbles a little bit of oil on him, and he's like, no, baby, why do you have a lamp? Come on, why are you doing that? And she runs out of the room. She's like, oh, how could I have done this? I've shattered trust with my hunky boy husband. So she's out there crying in like some random field, and Aphrodite's like, yeah, you messed up now. You screwed the pooch. It's all your fault. And she's like, please, Aphrodite, isn't there something I could do to regain this trust? And she's like, well, you could do these tasks I have for you. And Psyche's like, oh, anything. I'll do anything. Aphrodite intends for these tasks to be impossible, because that's another thing gods like to do. The first one is Aphrodite presents her with a large grain pile, and she's like, there's buckwheat, there's millet, there's oats in here, and I need you to sort them all into separate piles. And Psyche's like, what? I can't do that, no! She doesn't even try, in fact. She just cries on the ground. But then the ants are like, why is this beautiful woman crying? First of all, I don't know how ants can be judges of beauty. They're probably not attracted to human women. If I looked at an ant, I wouldn't be like, wow, this ant is so handsome. I'd be like, yeah, that's an ant. But that could not matter less. And they're like, hey, don't worry. We'll help you sort the grain. Us ants are great at sorting grain. Apparently. So they do that for her. And then Aphrodite comes on the scene. She's like, oh, how'd you do this? So she's like, I bet she can't do this next task. Psyche, I want you to go fill up a bottle from that river. She'll never be able to do this one. So Psyche goes to the river, but the rocks are slippery. So she can't fill up that bottle. However, a passing eagle decides to help her and fill up the bottle itself. And then she returns to Aphrodite, having successfully filled the bottle. And so Aphrodite gives her one final task, which is to go underground and ask Persephone to fill a box with one drop of her beauty. Psyche, having established that she is extremely charismatic, easily convinces Persephone to do this, and I don't know how Aphrodite thought that task was going to be infeasible. So, having completed all three, Psyche returns to Aphrodite, and she's like, can I have my pretty boy back? And Aphrodite's like, man, I guess. So then, they feed Psyche ambrosia and nectar. Those who have been watching Mossball Story Hour know that that is the food of the gods. And upon eating it, Psyche becomes a god. Wait. Tantalus didn't become a god. I don't care. It's Greek myths. There are inconsistencies. So then there's a happy ending for both Psyche, her hunky husband Eros, and the antagonist Aphrodite, because now that Psyche's no longer on Earth, people have forgotten about her and are worshipping Aphrodite instead. So, the moral of the story is, you can too fall in love if you get random animals to do things for you, and if you're just really conventionally attractive. The end! Oh, and from Psyche we get the word psyche, and by extension, psychotic. Hope you enjoyed this myth. Sadly, this is the very last myth I'm going to be covering on this channel. I hate myths and everything to do with them. Psyche.